My name is Barry Pierre, and my elder brother introduced me to the credit union. I was a young soldier then. My wife now, we weren't married yet, but we were living together. Things were a little tough, and we needed an institution that could assist us to move forward in life. Banks wasn't doing it because of the criteria to get loans or to get money borrowed. Most of the things that my wife and I have and have accomplished was through the credit union. From building our first home in Belmont to educating our children, purchasing my first car, all came from the credit union. Basically, the credit union financed the education of my wife. She's now an accountant. It took some years, but the credit union stuck with me throughout.
One day I went to work and they said I had a gas pain and I ended up in the hospital. While I was in the hospital, they tell me I need to do an angiogram. 14,000 something to do the angiogram. Then they said I have to do a heart surgery, open heart surgery, $175,000. I was able to get help out to get the loan to see about my operation to the credit union. While I was doing that, I ended up in a coma for 10 days, which went over the amount of $175,000. And they stand up with me and paid all my bills. And I'm living testimony to say that I'm going to sit down here talking today. And from there on, I never left there, and they helped me a great deal in life. To bring up my children, send them to school, buy new vehicle, pay for vehicle, insurance, everything.
There were some opportunities, that came my way. If it wasn't for the credit union, it would not have happened, right? One of them was my education. I went to St. Joseph's Convent in Port of Spain. When I left school, I wanted to further myself. I decided to do the associate's degree in computer science, right, in the Hearst. And of course, the credit union was right there. In fact, that was the first time that I was able to get a loan. And of course, with the guidance of the loans officers at the time, they were very, very kind and accommodating, right? Because of the credit union, I got my first little loan, got my degree, my associate's degree initially in computer science. I had a hunger for IT and so on, so I decided to do the Bachelor of Science degree. So again, where did I go? To the credit union.
I'm Kester Fraser from Roxborough, Tobago. I had a good friend. He introduced me to the credit union. From there was up the road for me, like refurbishing my house and thing. It was no problem. The staff was so nice to me. So every time I go to them for a loan, I believe it was just so easy. Down the road where my mother just come and passed away, they did a loan for me to bury my mother. I just had to come and collect the money. At that time, when Hurricane Ivan had passed, I had a small damage on my house, a small damage by the flood, and they called me and asked me what happened, and they actually gave me a disaster loan. The service that I got from the credit union, people was amazed. Yeah, some credit union you may not get that service.
So once again, ladies and gentlemen, fellow cooperators, welcome. Welcome to Western United Credit Union, WESCU, second webinar, streaming live from our head office boardroom. And I now introduce to you who will be sharing the floor with me this evening, Ms. Denise Jittan-Johnson from Douglas and Associates, clinical psychologist. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope that our discussion tonight could really be fruitful and helpful to all those who are in attendance.
And I'm
Thank you.
quite sure that it would, Denise. I'm quite sure that it would. So let's start off in all the chaos that is happening around us. And some of us may be able to cope with it quite well. Some of us may not be able to cope with it at all. But what we want to focus on this evening and even in our prior discussion is how do you as an individual, especially where you are locked in, and there are some homes that are good homes, there are some homes that are not so good homes, and there would always be challenges within the household as it pertains to how do we interact, how do we communicate with each other during this stressful time with so much coming at us. So my question to you is, are there any tools or secrets that you can share with us this evening as husband and wives or children, being so closely knitted together amidst the chaos? How do we fight fairly? It's all of this chaos.
And I do have some tools. I don't know if I want them to be secrets. I hope that these are tools that get shared far and wide, for everybody. No secrets here. But I think that the really important thing to start with is just what we think about when we think about mental health. Because oftentimes when we say the words mental health or mental awareness, the picture that comes to mind is this, field of butterflies, rainbows, blissful happiness. But being mentally healthy doesn't mean that we're in a constant state of happiness. It means that we have a whole bunch of other feelings that we're able to experience. Feelings of sadness, feelings of loneliness, grief, anger are all part of our human existence. And the key to recognizing mental health, mental wellness, is being able to experience and appreciate all emotions, no good emotions, bad emotions, but all emotions without being debilitated. It's this core ability to cope with big feelings and manage challenges as they come, and recognition that all of these feelings are part of our human existence and needed. Yeah. So with this understanding that as we stay at home and mandates tighten and home is now everything. Yeah. Home is school, home is work, recreation. We've really lost that space to disconnect from the demands of family life. In the past when we were able to be out after certain hours, you'd have that time to decompress from any discord that's in the household. You'd have time to live your life individually as an adult for parents around us with children and small children at home. You'd have these spaces to be able to decompress. And now that we don't have those spaces, some of these big feelings are being amplified. Yeah? So with home becoming everything, it's very likely that you'd be feeling a lot more irritable, that disagreements might be happening more frequently within the household, things that wouldn't have been a problem or a big challenge in the past are now becoming points of discord. They're becoming arguments. And for homes that really have this baseline of being relatively calm, this added tension may not, result in big discord. Yeah. However, in those homes that had pre-existing challenges, this addition could really result in explosive anger or even abuse. And I love what you said as we were speaking and introducing, that everyone's home is not the same. For some of us, home is really the safe place, the safe haven, that we could really adhere to these stay-at-home orders in a safe and peaceful way. But for others, home is a bit more chaotic. And arguments and disagreements are a normal part of any relationship. But what is key, and what I think we're getting into some of these secrets a little bit, as you put it, is really how we manage these arguments and disagreements. Yeah? How are we as couples, how are we as family members living in the same household? How are we able to argue? That's what's important. And how are we able to control these arguments and disagreements so they don't spiral out of control and become counterproductive, hurtful, and emotionally charged is the real issue, and some of these tools that we're going to be talking about. Yeah.
Because
So,
while you were speaking, I am thinking to myself, because our whole purpose for being here this evening, once again, is to give people that sense of hope that there is life beyond COVID, and yes, there will be. So while you were speaking there, one of the things that came to my mind is the being at home can now unearth a lot of resentment. I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but that came to my mind. A lot of hidden resentment that one family member may have for the next. How are we going to deal with that? And I know I call them secrets. They may be secrets for now, but soon and very soon, there won't be secrets anymore, because you're going to give us the tools on how someone harboring a resentment for their wife, for their husband, or one child to a next. And now there is no escape, because I can't go out anywhere anymore to line to wait until maybe someone is asleep, and then I could come home and slip in very easily. How do we handle that? That is what's going through my mind.
yeah,
Yes.
and in a very real way, we're in the middle of a storm right now. We're in the middle of a lot of chaos and uncertainty. And when we're thinking about being in the storm, the important part isn't about fixing and building and repairing, but it's about sheltering. So it's about being able to have this perspective that, one, and I love that space of recognition, recognizing that there is this resentment that exists, and then doing what you can do to manage the resentment for now. And this goes really nicely into the space of rules for fighting. They're actually rules, and there's a formula of how you can fight fairly, of how you can manage these points of resentment and discord and disagreement within the family, and not only within the family, but within your community as well. And the first rule, there are 9 rules. Now, bear with me. It sounds like a lot. And it's not about implementing all of them and saying, oh, well, Denise said X, Y, and Z. I have to, take notes vigorously. But it's about taking the ones that apply to your life. Because if we try to implement all 9 of these rules one time, you're going to be overwhelmed. You're going into trying to fix buildings in the middle of the hurricane.
Yes.
So really seeing what you can do, what is at hand in front of you, and that goes into this first rule of fighting. Yeah, is before you begin an argument, ask yourself, why am I upset? And stick to the right now in front of you issue. not all of those past issues that would have fueled all of the feelings of resentment in the past.
You're
But
not counting cost at all.
yeah, what's that?
No, you're not counting the cost.
You're not counting the costs. You're just saying, what is it in front of me right now that has made me upset? And this is a really important first step, because in asking yourself, why are you angry right now? You're taking time to think about your own feelings before you're starting the argument, because really often we compound so many issues into one argument. And when you do that, it could get messy really quickly and it escalate out of control. Yeah. So, and that leads into the other rule of fighting, is discuss one topic at a time. So don't let, your left dishes in the sink turn into, why do you never help me with anything around the house? And you're always watching TV and, spiral into a whole bunch of other issues.
Yes.
Discussing one topic at a time. Because when we get off topic, we're very likely to become more heated. And it's really improbable that you're going to solve the actual problem at hand. Yeah? So in coming into a fight, coming into a disagreement, or a point of discord, the first thing, figure out why you're upset. Second thing, you're sticking to that one topic at hand. Because if it is, we try to compound everything, it really gonna go nowhere fast, and it's going to turn into a heated argument. Yeah. The third, and this is something that is really difficult if we have a pattern of abusive behavior, a pattern of not really respecting one another. But the third really important rule is no degrading language. You're discussing the issue that we have in front of us, not the person. Yeah? So you're not using any put downs. You're not swearing and cussing and calling each other names, because degrading language at its core is really this attempt to express your negative feelings, your bad feelings, onto the other person and make them feel just as bad as you feel. Yeah. So when you start, go ahead.
If I may interject, what if I don't see the value of your feelings, and were you behaving so for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we getting down, because that gonna jump points a little bit,
All right.
because, and yeah, that is 100% right, is that if it is that we are going to have a meaningful discussion, a meaningful space of really trying to come to get to an agreement of something, it has to come from a space of mutual respect.
Yes.
And it has to come from a space of recognizing that just because you don't agree with my feelings, it doesn't mean that my experience isn't valid. Yeah? So going from this rule of not using degrading language, because it really going into this character attack, and then the original issue gone out the window anyway, is being able to express your feelings with words. Yeah? So being able to say, I feel hurt when X, Y, and Z. I feel scared when you yell. I feel uncomfortable when you don't let me speak. And you see, being able to structure your sentences, structure your communicating as I statements. So I feel a feeling when this event happens. When you use that formula to express how you're feeling, you are taking responsibility for your emotions. It's not about what you think I should feel or whether you think that my feelings are valid, but it's really you taking responsibility for how you feel. Yeah. And then recognizing, because this is a really important thing, really important to note, that you can't tell anybody else how they feel. You can't disagree with somebody else's feeling,
Yes.
because their feeling is their own experience. You can't tell me that my own experience isn't what I'm experiencing. Yeah? So your experience, your feeling is valid. And if you are in a disagreement, a discussion with somebody, and you realize that there isn't that recognition or value of what I am feeling, then we know that that's not going to go in a productive route. So we probably need to take a pause on this argument until we calm down. Yeah. And that's actually one of the rules too, is being able to take a time out when things get too heated.
Yes.
Yeah. Because in a perfect world, you know, all of us would follow all of these rules all of the time, right? Yeah. And then we wouldn't get heated and da-da-da. But the reality is that sometimes these discussions and arguments get heated. Yeah. And if an argument starts to become personal, starts to become invalidating, starts to become heated and derogatory, you need to take a time out and agree on a time to come back after everyone is cooled down. Yeah, that is the really important part, agreeing to be able to come back to discuss what the issue is. Because if we don't agree to that, then we ain't gonna get a solution, right?
And I'm wondering how many of us really do come back to continue the discussion, or do they just start to throw the confetti up in their mind, oh, well, this is the end of it, and walking away. But while we walk away, the issue is still there festering. And then something else might be added on top of that, making it even worse.
Yeah, see what you described right there is this issue of stonewalling.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's another rule right there. You're not stonewalling. Now, sometimes, because what stonewalling is the easiest way to respond to an argument, right? You retreat into your own shell. You just don't speak. You say, I done with this. You go your way, right? And we don't talk about it again. You go behind your wall. And it might feel good in the moment. It's a temporary fix. You'd feel better. But that's exactly what you're saying, is this core issue is going to remain unresolved. And then you and your partner, you're going to get more upset. And then again, it's going to stay and it's going to fester. So when it is we're coming into this argument or discussion, know that it's a mutual agreement that we going to get to the root of what this problem is. It doesn't have to be now. It could be in a couple hours when we cool off. It could be next Wednesday after we calm down and we cool. But it's this space of agreeing that we're going to come back to speak about it. Yeah? So that is really important. It's not about just throwing the confetti up in the air and walking your separate ways and then coming back whenever things calm down. It's about being able to come back to be able to resolve it. Yeah? So when we come in back, because one of the other rules is that we take turns speaking. Yeah? So when we come back and we decide, okay, a done stonewalling, a done being vexed, a cool off, let me come back to this conversation. You have to give each person space to speak. Not only space to speak, but space to speak with their full attention, is that I am listening to what you are saying. I'm not listening to respond. I'm not listening to disagree with you. I am listening to hear what you have to say. And your only job is to understand their point of view. Is not to agree with them. Is even if you disagree, that's okay. but it's just to be able to come to a space where you can understand each other. Because if you could understand where each other's coming from, then we know we cooking with gas and we could go along trying to solve this problem. It's like, oh, I get it why you think that way. And okay, I get it why you think that way. So let's look at the problem now. Yeah? So taking turns speaking and being actually present in the conversation. You're not talking and texting on your phone or talking and looking at TV. You're talking and being present with each other. That is important. So you don't have to agree. Having an argument, the end of it doesn't mean that we have to agree with everything and back to rainbows and butterflies. You could agree to disagree. Yeah. And that's, one of the rules as well, is that you're attempting to come to a compromise or an understanding of the other person. Yeah.
Yes.
You're not coming into this fight to win. You're not fighting it down because your side have to be it. You're
Yes.
coming into this with the understanding that we're going to compromise, or we could agree to disagree and move on our merry ways.
As you made that statement there, because it has been in my mind since the day you started off with your rules, and sometimes why people don't like to have this sit down, open and frank conversation is maybe because if it is revealed that maybe I am wrong in my behavior, it means that I am a flawed human being. And therefore, if I'm a flawed or coming across as a flawed human being, maybe I'm not a good wife or a good husband or a good child. But do you think that sometimes we have to learn how to separate behaviors from who we really are, and not saying that, okay, if I behave this way and I make an error, it doesn't make me a bad person? And if it is, I'm hearing something from someone, it doesn't mean that the person views me as less than. It's just that at that particular time, maybe my behavior was a bit off. And not because someone is hearing negative feedback on who they are means that they are not a good human being. And sometimes, in my opinion, I think that is why some people do not like to sit down and have these open discussions, because it sometimes reveals truthfully who you are, good or bad, and therefore you don't want to feel that kind of hurt or that kind of, oh my God, am I really that person?
And you're 100% right, is a lot of us are operating from this space of believing that who we are is, how to say, a product of what other people think of us. So therefore, if somebody else thinks that I'm bad, that means I'm bad. Or even sometimes we're in this mindset, even as people interacting with others, that because somebody does something that I don't like, it means that they are a bad person. And that is 100% untrue. And I think this comes down a little bit to my core belief as a therapist, is that we are all amazing and wonderful and vivacious and lovely humans. And the way that we see ourselves and the way that we interact with the world around us is really based on our life experience. And if we've had negative life experiences, it really shapes how we see ourselves and how we interact with the world. So these negative life experiences are not who we are, but it's what covers up our lovely core selves. So if it is that, yes, you might be doing things that may not be the nicest, sometimes you yell in an argument, because that's another rule right there, is that we're not yelling. Sometimes you raise your voice and you yell. Sometimes I raise my voice and I yell. It doesn't mean that I'm a flawed person. It means this is how I'm coping with the current situation in front of me. And we all cope in the best ways that we know how. And when it is we're going into these discussions, if it is that we can be nice to ourselves, so you're being nice to the other person, but you're also being nice to yourself, with recognizing that there's a possibility that I could have done something that hurt this other person. But I'm coming into this discussion with the frame of mind and the realization that, okay, I may have done something that wasn't nice, but I'm coming with this from a space of growth, from a space of love and appreciation for the person who is with me, that I want to be the best person that I can be for them. And if you're coming with an open frame, coming with this understanding that you're being nice to yourself, even if somebody tells you something that they don't like about you, it doesn't mean that this is who I am. It means that, you know what, this is how I've learned to behave. And because I learned how to behave this way, I could unlearn how to behave this way as well. Yeah. So it's all about, and I think that that's what life is, you know, even if you're in the middle of chaos or if you're in the middle of the calm sunshine, is that life is this constant space of being able to learn about yourself, learn about other people, and figure out how you could make it a little bit better as well.
Do you think, Denise, that it would be important in any kind of relationship that we allow our partners, be it husband and wife, be it a friend and friend, to be honestly vulnerable instead of always expecting them to behave in a particular manner? And they always have to put on a kind of facade that I'm around you, so this is who I am, instead of, okay, fine. When I'm around you, I can just be at ease.
Mm-hmm.
If I stumble, I know that I would not be judged.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it may be in the household, especially now, that if we know our partners and know our children and afford them the ability to be vulnerable and not being judgmental if they make a misstep, but help them along the way to become better persons, then in this lockdown, we can see a family, as in the prayer says, that we're here to restore and to heal and to strengthen the family unit,
Mm-hmm.
inside and outside of the household.
Yeah. So it would be
Honorable.
wonderful if we're allowed to like wave a magic wand and say, okay, be vulnerable. You can be
Yes.
vulnerable with me. That's fine. But really and truly, creating a space where somebody else can feel vulnerable with you is actually work. Is that vulnerability can't happen without safety. And vulnerability, it really comes from building this view and this framework of safety. Yeah. So how do we build safety? And it really is in the small things. It's in the little things. So if it is a child accidentally spills water, are you going to say, oh gosh, why are you always spilling water? You're always breaking my dishes, da, 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 da. Or are you going to say, it's okay that you spilled the water, you know, accidents happen. Let's help me clean it up. So even in those small interactions, you're either building a space of safety or you're building a space of fear. And if it is that we want this true vulnerability to exist, we have to be mindful of even those small interactions. Is how am I building safety? How am I building accountability with my partner, with my children? And if you can build in accountability, when I say accountability, it's that you do what you say you're going to do when you do it. Yeah? You act in a space and in a manner that lets them feel comfortable and heard. So for example, if your partner comes and trying to have a conversation with you, even if it's about something frivolous, you know, am I going to be sitting there on my phone and kind of just saying, or am I going to let this person feel heard, even if I'm not interested in the story they have to say? You know, so it's about building that space that they feel heard, even about the small things, so that when the big things happen, that vulnerability can happen naturally. So even thinking about parents and young kids, is that if it is that your child wants to tell you every single detail of that episode of Paw Patrol that they just looked at, you sit with a smile on your face and you listen. If it is that they're telling you about all of the little discussions, I know with the teenagers, they want to tell you every little discussion sometimes that they have with their peers, and you know, they're going back and forth and giving you all of their points of view of things. You sit and you listen, because in feeling heard about those little things, it means that those big things would be easier to bring to the table as well.
How many tools do we have left to go, or have we covered?
Oh gosh, we've actually covered all 9. If I could recap the 9 rules. Yes, I've been tying them into our discussion little by little. But if I could just go through them in a list.
Yes, please.
Is the first one is, before you begin the discussion, ask yourself why you're upset. The second is that we're discussing one topic at a time. You're not bringing in all of the little things here and there that you've been building up for the whole week.
Yes.
The third is no degrading language. The fourth is that we're going to express your feelings with words. So not degrading words, but with words. So that's when I'm talking about the I feel X when Y happens. Yeah. The fifth is that you're taking turns speaking. So you're not talking over each other. You're not answering to respond. You're not listening to just respond, but you're taking turns to speak. The sixth is that you're not stonewalling. You're not just retreating and going behind your wall and hiding away until the argument done. The seventh is that you're not yelling. The eighth is that you're taking a time out and coming back if things get too heated. And then the last is that you're coming into this with this understanding that you're attempting to come to a compromise or an understanding, that there probably isn't a perfect answer to the argument, but you're coming into this discussion to figure out what could be best for both parties.
Wonderful. And when we come back, we want to tie in. We are going to go to a brief commercial break now. So when we come back, we want to tie in the financial aspect of it, because I am the sole breadwinner of the house. I have lost my job. How am I going to deal with that? I have children. My wife used to depend on me. So now I am feeling either less than, because I'm not able to provide again as I used to, or I am now telling myself I should have listened to my loan officers when they were telling me that I should have been putting away my rainy day fund. And now COVID has come and caught us with our pants down. How do I deal with such a situation while trying to hold my family together? So we'll go to a brief commercial break and we'll be right back. Thank you, Denise. Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, Denise. Welcome back. So just
Hello.
before the break, we were talking about how do we cope with our finances during this chaotic time, especially being at home locked away. Uh, One person may have lost their job or got a reduction in their salary, and now we are trying to cope with less, having to meet the same. How do we handle that? How do we give that kind of support within, knowing that we did not prepare for a day like this, even though we didn't know it was coming? But we always hear the old people always telling us that we must save for a rainy day. So even in this discussion, I am also going to challenge our listeners, challenge our viewers, even tonight, to start to save for their rainy day.
Yeah. And finances is really one of the biggest, and most common sources of discord in families and in relationships. And times are really difficult right now in that with the strict restrictions that we're now under, a lot of persons are, like you were saying, taking pay cuts or getting laid off or, not earning as much as they're used to. And I think that this is one of the biggest challenges that you can really apply the tools that we discussed about with, is that you, in order to deal with this financial storm, if we might put it like that, you need to be on the same page with members of the household. Is that one person can't be thinking, meh, we're gonna get through this, and spending and living life as if they were before this pandemic or before this storm hit us. And it's about being able to really come together, be on the same page with understanding that, yes, this is a different dynamic that we are dealing with right now. We need to be able to address what our priorities are in terms of
Yes.
spending. What are the essentials that we need to be looking at? What are some of the nice to haves that we've been existing with and enjoying in our normal life? But they're nice to haves. They're not necessarily essential. And what are
Yes.
some of these spaces of just frivolous spending that we may have done in the past? So really being able to come together to look at your finances in that way, and really be able to be on the same page with how do we manage in what we're going through right now. And in managing, like you said, how can we still put aside to be able to make sure that should this go on even longer, or should our situation become even more challenging, that we have something to be able to fall back, no matter how small it is, but really being able to build ourselves in that way. Realizing that one of the that's one of the biggest spaces of abuse in men that goes so under discussed, is that especially in these households where men are seen as the breadwinner or are the breadwinner and provide for the family and for the home, and then suddenly that's not possible anymore, is that sometimes that emotional abuse that they may get from family members would have a very huge impact on their own emotional well-being. You see that degrading language, that yelling, that putting the blame solely on. It is a very heavy weight to bear, and is really, if we think about it, it's categorized as emotional and psychological abuse. So thinking that we need to protect our men through this, we need to protect our women as well, because financial abuse is a thing. and that sometimes homes are already existing in this pre-existing state of financial abuse. So now
Yes.
that things are even tighter, you know, we have that abuse flaring as well. So really understanding that if it is we're going to weather this space of really shrunken finances, it's that space in this discussion that we could use all of the tools that we spoke about before our break to really apply.
And I'm hearing, not literally, but in my mind, I'm hearing my producers telling me that time is running out. So, and I know we just have 1 hour. And I would just like to add to that in terms of how do we position ourselves financially in the household. And this is a time when we truly need to sit down as a family, as you said before, and really look at our finances and be financially vulnerable as to where we are at. Be very self-aware of our spending habits before, and maybe we need to change them now. Create a new vision of where you see your household, where you see your finances within the family. And do not think for yourself or for a moment that I am going to start after the pandemic, then I'm going to start to put aside monies. I am challenging every person this evening. Dip into your wallets, dip into your purses, and start your rainy day / emergency fund right now. Too often we think that we need a big sum of money, and when I get more money, then I will start to save. No, it's right where you are at. So I ain't seen only going into the purses and the wallets as yet. So let me say it again. Dip into your purses, dip into your wallets, and whatever you can afford right now, $5, $10, 20, 40, take an envelope, put it in it, and that is the beginning of your rainy day fund. And at WESCU, we have a rainy day / emergency deposit account. You can bring it in, put it in that account, and forget that you have it and keep adding and adding to it. So we have to challenge ourselves. We have to be supportive. We cannot say that, okay, maybe this pandemic will take another 100 years. What if it does not take 100 years? But just as we started to ease ourselves out of it, bam, it comes back again. Are we financially prepared? Are we emotionally prepared? And I will just end with my comment, which is taken from Ecclesiastes 10:19. A feast is made for laughter, and wine maketh merry, but money answereth all things. So we want all things answered, but we do not want to make the sacrifice so that we can answer all things. So I am just going to leave it there. I know that we have to bring in our treasurer to give the closing remarks. I totally enjoy our evening. I wish that we can talk until tomorrow morning, please God, but that would not be possible. So do you have anything else that you want to add quickly, Denise?
So I did see that there was one question in the chat, and
Yes.
they were asking about the accelerated digitization of all aspects of our lives. Is humanity and emotional intelligence being compromised and hindering our ability to resolve conflict effectively? I think the I'd give the short answer to this question just because I'm being mindful of the time. But it is changing the way that we handle emotional interaction, yes. But it doesn't have to hinder and stop our ability to resolve conflict. All of the points that we did raise, all of those things work effectively via digital communication as well. And it's about being able to now troubleshoot the challenges that we have in resolving conflict remotely. So it's not impossible. It's just that we now have to think about how are we doing things differently. So again, it's a big point of change, but it's something that could be done if we come from this space of mutual respect, this space of understanding that compromise is possible and very likely, and this space of really being able to want to resolve whatever the challenge is with being nice to each other. Yeah. So,
being nice to each other. I love that. Being nice to each other. As we here at WESCU, especially at the board level, we always say that we treat each other with grace, respect, and dignity at all times. So now we will go over to Ms. Sharon Hines, our treasurer, who would bring the closing remarks this evening, and then we'll come back to me.
Hi, Denise, Jittan-Johnson, Mark Ferrette, our president and board of directors, fellow cooperators, attendees, good evening. I'm Sharon, the treasurer. Denise, this has been an absolutely lovely session, as the others have been. You know, you never think of rules of engagement, but they were very, very, I took a note of all of them. Very important to help us cope and manage the situation at home. It is getting tighter for everybody. I particularly liked how you said that we should try to build a space of safety, and that it's in the little things. I always believe it's the little things that you do or don't do that will help you to cope better when the big things come. So I thank you for a most informative session. And what I also like with your session is that it's very practical. You have an idea of where to go, how to cope. It's not just all theory, and then at the end of the day, you're still wondering, how the hell am I going to handle this situation that's facing me? So thank you for that. This session as well, it's not just us, we have had help. So I will start by thanking Hermina Charles for her lovely rendition of the national anthem and the inspirational song which set the mood for the session. I'd like to thank Nigel Thomas because he's our IT guru. He is the one who arranges for everything to go smoothly. And each session, I think it gets more and more refined. Thank you, Nigel. Last but not least, I'd like to thank our president, Mark Ferrette, who has been the moderator and guiding the discussions very skillfully. And I'd like to thank our attendees for taking time off. Everybody's time is really precious. At the end of this, at this time, most people are fagged, but they took the time off to attend. Please tell a friend. It's wonderful, wonderful information being shared. So thank you, and it's back to Mark.
Thank you very much, Madam Treasurer. And just to let everyone know, there is going to be a third session in July. Please forgive me, I cannot remember the date right now, but I think it is the 16th of July. Please tell a friend, tell your neighbor, tell everyone to come, because these valuable discussions that we are having would help to make you a better person, will help, and as you become a better person, of course, it will filter down into your household, into the neighborhood, into the community. So let us tell everyone, local and abroad, about these dynamic sessions that Western United Credit Union is having. We are not selfish people. We love to share. So please engage, engage, engage. Denise, thank you so very much for your time. As usual, you made it very easy for me to interact. Thank you so very much. I like to thank Dr. Diane Douglas as well for affording the partnership between Western United Credit Union and Douglas and Associates. And I would also like to say a special thank you to Trevlon Halls, who has been working extremely hard with me behind the scenes, early morning meetings, late in the night, and we are planning and we are talking and we are ensuring that everything runs very, very smoothly. Trevlon, I thank you for your patience with me. And Brian Johnson, I thank you as well, who's giving me all the cues and the wrap-ups and all of that. So, so everyone, I just want to say thank you, the Board of Directors, Supervisory Committee, Credit Committee, staff. We cannot do this without you all. So thank you so very much. And as we leave and we wait with great anticipation for our next session, let us remember that the change that you desire to see begins within your thought, your feeling, what you speak, and your actions. So do not focus on the negativity, but focus on the good that you want to see within your household, and believe that it can be and it is surrounding you. So thank you, Denise. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us, and have a joyful evening.